The massive alien ships appeared without warning above Earth's orbital stations. Their hulls gleamed like polished silver, smooth and perfect in the cold vacuum of space. Each vessel stretched for miles, their surfaces unmarked by the scars and patches that covered human ships. They moved in perfect formation, silent and threatening. Captain Sarah stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, watching the alien fleet through the main. Her weathered hands gripped the railing as she counted the ships. 50 of them, maybe more. Each one was 3 times the size of her own vessel. Her crew worked quietly around her, checking weapons and shields with the calm efficiency of people who had seen combat before. The communication system crackled to life. A face appeared on the screen, unlike anything the humans had seen before. The being had pale blue skin stretched tight over sharp bones. 4 black eyes stared out from a face that looked like it had never smiled. When it spoke, its voice was cold and formal. "I am ambassador of the hegemony, speaking for the Galactic Enforcement Coalition. You will listen carefully to what I say. Your species has violated Interstellar Maritime Law 347b. You have claimed territory that does not belong to you. You have built colonies and mining stations without permission from the proper authorities." Sarah watched the alien speak, nodding the way it held its head high, the way it looked down at the camera as if humans were children being scolded. She had seen that look before, from pirates who thought their big ships made them untouchable. The alien continued, "Your primitive species does not understand the complexities of interstellar management. You cannot be trusted with the resources you have claimed. More civilized species can use these materials properly, for the good of all galactic society." Around the bridge, Sarah's crew exchanged glances. Engineer Martinez muttered something in Spanish that probably was not polite. Navigation officer just shook her head. They had all heard speeches like this before, from corporate executives who wanted to take over asteroid mining claims. "You have 30 standard cycles to withdraw from all territories beyond your home planet's immediate orbit," Ambassador announced. "This includes all mining operations, research stations, and colony settlements. If you fail to comply, the Coalition will take corrective enforcement action. We have a perfect record of compliance across 847 star systems. No species has ever refused our lawful demands." The alien's 4 eyes seemed to gleam with satisfaction. "We expect your surrender within the week. Most species see reason much faster when they understand what they face. Your leaders may contact us when you are ready to discuss the terms of your withdrawal." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in silence. Sarah stared at the blank screen for a long moment, then looked around at her crew. They were all watching her, waiting for orders. These were good people, experienced spacers who had fought pirates and corporate security forces in the asteroid fields. They knew how to handle bullies. "Well," Sarah said finally, "that was interesting. What do you think, people?" Chief Weapons Officer spoke first. "Those ships are big, Captain, really big, but they move like cargo haulers, not warships, all smooth and slow." "Their formations are pretty," added from navigation. "Like parade formations, all neat and tidy." Sarah nodded. She had noticed the same things. The alien ships looked impressive, but they moved like vessels that had never been in a real fight. They stayed in perfect order, never varying their positions or speed. Real combat ships moved differently, always ready to dodge or change direction. "Martinez," Sarah called to her engineer, "what's the status on our mining platform friends?" The engineer grinned. "Platform 7 reports all systems normal, Captain. They're just finishing their monthly weapons calibration. Platform 12 says they're ready for whatever comes next. The asteroid miners want to know if they should start moving their families to safer locations." Sarah considered this. The mining platforms were officially civilian installations, built to extract metals and rare elements from asteroids. But they had also been built by humans who remembered the bad old days when pirates attacked anything that could not fight back. Every platform carried enough firepower to defend itself, and their crews knew how to use it. Tell them to go about their normal business, Sarah decided. No need to panic anybody. This is just another day in human space. She walked to her command chair and sat down, thinking about the aliens' words. Interstellar maritime law, primitive species, corrective enforcement action. The phrases sounded familiar, like things she had heard before in corporate boardrooms and pirate demands. The words were fancier, but the meaning was the same. Hand over your property or we will take it by force. Sarah had been fighting pirates and claim jumpers for 20 years. She had seen every trick and threat they used. The aliens might have bigger ships and fancier technology, but they were still bullies demanding what did not belong to them. She opened a communication channel to Earth Command. This is Captain on the UES Defiance. We need to talk to the lawyers, the maritime lawyers specifically, and somebody should call the museum and dig up those old piracy law books, the really old ones. Around her, the crew began to smile. They knew that look in their captain's eyes. It was the same look she got when claim jumpers tried to steal their mining rights, or when pirates demanded tribute for safe passage. It was the look of someone who had read the law books and knew exactly what they said about unwelcome visitors in human space. 24 hours later, Captain Sarah sat in her command chair with a thick book open on her lap. The leather cover was cracked with age, and the gold lettering had faded to barely visible marks. Maritime Law of Earth, Volume 7, Piracy and Salvage Rights. Her grandmother had given her this book when she first joined the Merchant Marine. Now it might save humanity. Captain, Communications Officer Park announced, "We're receiving a transmission from the alien flagship. They want an answer to their demands." Sarah looked up from the old law book and smiled. It was not a nice smile. "Put them on screen, Park. Let's have a chat with our new friends." Ambassador appeared on his 4 black eyes looking impatient. Behind him, the bridge of his ship gleamed with crystal displays and floating holographic controls. Everything was clean and perfect, like a museum exhibit. "Human vessel," the alien spoke in his cold, formal voice. "You have had sufficient time to contact your leaders. We assume you are prepared to discuss the terms of your withdrawal from illegal territories. The coalition is prepared to be generous in allowing you time to evacuate." Sarah closed the law book with a loud snap that made her bridge crew grin. She leaned back in her chair and studied the alien ambassador for a long moment. He looked so confident, so sure that humans would simply roll over and give up everything they had worked for. "Well, Ambassador," Sarah said, her voice calm and friendly, "that's adorable. We have our own laws." The alien's head tilted slightly, as if he had not heard correctly. "I do not understand your meaning, human. There is only one law in interstellar space, the law of the Galactic Enforcement Coalition. All civilized species recognize this authority." Sarah picked up the old book and held it where the alien could see it. "See, that's where you're wrong. Humans have been dealing with pirates and thieves for thousands of years. We wrote our first maritime laws when we were still using wooden ships on Earth's oceans. We've been updating those laws ever since." She opened the book to a page marked with a red ribbon. According to Human Space Maritime Code, Section 15, any hostile foreign vessel making territorial demands in human space without a formal treaty is considered an act of piracy. Piracy, Ambassador, is subject to immediate response under our salvage and seizure laws. The alien's eyes widened slightly. Around him, other crew members were turning to listen. Sarah could hear them talking in their own language, voices rising with what sounded like confusion. "You cannot be serious," Ambassador said finally. "Your primitive legal concepts have no authority over coalition enforcement actions. We represent the legitimate government of this galaxy. You are nothing but a single-planet species that has barely learned to travel between stars." Sarah's crew exchanged glances. Navigation officer was trying not to laugh. Chief was checking something on his tactical display with obvious amusement. "Let me explain something to you, Ambassador," Sarah continued, her voice still pleasant and calm. "Humans don't recognize your authority because you never asked us to. You never sent diplomats to negotiate a treaty. You never offered trade agreements or mutual defense pacts. You just showed up and started making demands like pirates demanding tribute." She flipped through several pages of the old book. "Under Earth maritime law, which has been in continuous use for over 3,000 years, you and your fleet are currently in violation of approximately 47 different statutes. The big ones include armed trespass, threat of violence against civilian populations, and attempted theft of lawfully claimed property." The alien was starting to look less confident. His perfect posture seemed to sag slightly. "This is impossible. No species has ever refused coalition authority. Our records show perfect compliance across hundreds of star systems." "Well," Sarah said, "now you know why. Those other species probably didn't have 10,000 years of experience dealing with pirates." She leaned forward in her chair. "Let me make this simple for you. Under Human Space Maritime Code, I'm giving you 24 hours to withdraw your fleet from human territorial waters. If you refuse, we'll be forced to treat you as pirates operating in our space." The bridge of the alien ship had gone very quiet. Sarah could see other aliens gathering behind their ambassador, their faces showing the first signs of worry. "And what," Ambassador asked slowly, "does human law say about pirates?" Sarah's smile grew wider and much less friendly. "I'm glad you asked." She flipped to another section of the book. "Pirates caught in the act of threatening civilian populations are subject to immediate seizure of their vessels and arrest of their crews. All captured pirate ships become the legal property of whoever captures them, under ancient salvage rights." She closed the book again and set it aside. "So here's how this works, Ambassador. You've got 24 hours to leave human space peacefully. If you don't, we'll consider your fleet to be pirate vessels operating illegally in our territory. And humans have a lot of experience dealing with pirates." The alien's mouth opened and closed several times without sound. Finally, he managed to speak. "You would dare attack coalition vessels. We have the most advanced military technology in the galaxy. Your primitive weapons cannot penetrate our shields." "Oh," Sarah said, "we're not planning to attack you. We're planning to arrest you. There's a big difference." She gestured to Communications Officer Park. "Send the standard anti-piracy warning to all human vessels in the system. Let them know we have a Code 7 situation." Park nodded and began typing rapidly. Within moments, dozens of acknowledgement signals began appearing on the communications board. Mining platforms, cargo haulers, research vessels, and patrol ships all confirmed receipt of the message. Ambassador was staring at the screen showing all the human responses. "What is a Code 7 situation?" "Armed piracy in progress," Sarah explained cheerfully. "Standard response protocol for when claim jumpers or thieves try to steal lawfully held property. Every human vessel in the system is now authorized to assist in arresting the pirates and seizing their ships." The alien's face had gone from pale blue to almost white. "This is madness. You cannot treat the Galactic Enforcement Coalition as common criminals." Sarah stood up and straightened her uniform jacket. "Ambassador, under human law, that's exactly what you are. You came into our space without permission, made illegal demands for our property, and threatened violence if we don't comply. If that's not piracy, I don't know what is." She looked directly into the alien's 4 eyes. 24 hours, Ambassador. Use them wisely." 18 hours after Captain's ultimatum, Ambassador made his decision. The human response had been discussed at length among the Coalition fleet commanders. The consensus was clear. No primitive species would dare attack advanced galactic vessels. The humans were bluffing, trying to use legal words to avoid the inevitable. "Target the mining platform designated as Platform 7. the ambassador ordered his weapons officer. "A demonstration of our power will end this primitive defiance quickly. Disable their main reactor but leave the structure intact. We want survivors to spread word of Coalition superiority." The Coalition destroyer Righteous Enforcement moved toward the mining platform with slow, majestic confidence. Its energy shields glowed with power, and its weapon arrays charged with enough force to crack a small moon. The platform ahead looked like exactly what it claimed to be: a simple civilian mining operation built around a large asteroid. Platform 7 was a collection of connected modules wrapped around a spinning rock. Industrial equipment covered its surface, with huge excavation machines and ore processing plants. Cargo pods moved along magnetic tracks, carrying refined metals to waiting transport ships. It looked busy, productive, and completely defenseless. Captain stood on Platform 7's command center, watching the alien warship approach on her displays. Around her, the platform's crew worked at their stations with calm efficiency. Nobody seemed worried about the massive destroyer bearing down on them. "Range to target," asked her tactical officer. 80,000 kilometers and closing, Captain. They're moving real slow, like they're trying to look impressive." Nodded. "Weapon status." "All defensive systems ready, Captain. Point defense grid is online. Main batteries are charged and tracking. The big stick is ready to fire on your command." The Platform 7 crew was officially composed of miners, engineers, and cargo handlers. What the Coalition ships did not know was that every person on the platform was also a veteran of the asteroid wars, when corporate raiders and pirates had turned the outer system into a... They had learned hard lessons about what happened to defenseless civilian targets. "Incoming transmission from the alien ship," the communications officer reported. "Put it on screen," ordered. An officer appeared on the display, looking stern and official. "Mining platform, you are ordered to shut down your operations and prepare for inspection. Any resistance will be met with overwhelming force. You have 5 minutes to comply." Looked around at her crew. Several of them were trying not to laugh. "Well," she said, "I guess they want to do this the hard way." She opened a channel to the alien ship. "Unknown vessel, this is Captain Maria of Mining Platform 7. You are ordered to withdraw immediately from human territorial space. Your presence here constitutes an act of piracy under Human Space Maritime Code. You have been warned." The alien officer's face showed irritation. "You will surrender your facility or face the consequences. This is your final warning." The transmission ended. On the tactical display, energy readings from the Coalition destroyer began to spike as it charged its main weapons. Watched the readings climb and shook her head. The aliens were actually going to attack a civilian mining platform. They really did not understand humans at all. "All hands prepare for combat operations," announced over the platform's communication system. "This is not a drill. Unknown hostile vessel is preparing to fire on civilian personnel. Authorization 77 Alpha is now in effect." Across the platform, hidden panels slid open. Weapon turrets rose from concealed positions among the mining equipment. What had looked like ore processing plants revealed themselves as camouflaged shield generators. The rotating asteroid section stopped its spin and locked into combat position. The Coalition destroyer fired its main cannon at the mining platform. The energy beam, powerful enough to destroy a small ship, struck Platform 7's shields and scattered harmlessly into space. Alarm sounds filled the alien bridge as their instruments registered impossible readings. "Sir," the weapons officer reported, "the mining platform has military-grade shields. Our attack had no effect." Ambassador stared at the tactical display in shock. "That is impossible. Our intelligence reports showed it was a civilian mining operation." "It is a civilian mining operation," Captain said, her voice coming through the Coalition ship's communication system. We just build our civilian installations to survive pirate attacks. You're not the first bullies to threaten miners in human space." Platform 7 fired back. What the aliens had mistaken for mining lasers revealed their true purpose as military-grade beam weapons. The shots struck the Coalition destroyers' shields with devastating accuracy, overloading multiple sections. "Shields down to 60%, the alien weapons officer shouted. "How is a mining platform outgunning us?" The answer came from space around them. Across the human system, dozens of other vessels were moving toward the battle. Cargo haulers deployed weapon arrays from hidden compartments. Research ships revealed themselves to be carrying enough firepower to fight small wars. Even the tiny patrol boats were broadcasting targeting locks on Coalition vessels. "This is Captain of the UES Defiance to all human vessels," Sarah's voice echoed across the communication channels. "We have hostile pirates firing on civilian installations. All units are authorized to engage under anti-piracy protocols. Show them what happens when you threaten human spacers." The Coalition fleet found itself surrounded by ships that looked civilian but fought like warships. Every human vessel in the system was converging on their position, and each one was armed far beyond what seemed possible for non-military craft. "Sir," the Coalition tactical officer reported to Ambassador, "we're reading 43 human vessels on intercept courses. They're all broadcasting as civilian ships, but they're all showing military-grade weapons and shields." The ambassador stared at his displays in growing horror. This was not how galactic law enforcement was supposed to work. Primitive species were supposed to surrender when faced with superior technology. They were not supposed to have hidden weapons on every civilian platform and ship. "How is this possible?" he whispered. Captain's voice answered him, broadcast on open channels for all to hear. "Simple, Ambassador. Humans have been fighting pirates for thousands of years. We learned a long time ago that the only way to stop bullies is to make sure they can't win a fight." The UES Defiance moved into weapons range, flanked by mining ships, cargo haulers, and research vessels. Every human ship looked different, built for various civilian purposes, but they all moved with the same deadly purpose. "This is your last chance," Captain announced. "Surrender now and prepare to be boarded for processing under human anti-piracy laws. Your ships will be impounded as evidence, and your crews will be arrested for armed threats against civilian populations." Ambassador looked around his bridge at his panicking crew. The Coalition's perfect record of compliance was about to be broken by a species that treated galactic law enforcement as piracy. His advanced military vessels were being outfought by ships that officially hauled cargo and mined asteroids. "What do we do?" his tactical officer asked. The ambassador had no answer. The Coalition had never faced a species that was ready to fight back. The human response was unlike anything the Galactic Enforcement Coalition had ever encountered. Instead of the overwhelming firepower that alien militaries used to destroy enemy vessels, the humans attacked with surgical precision. Their weapons were designed not to kill, but to capture. Captain coordinated the operation from the bridge of the UES Defiance, watching as human vessels moved into attack positions around the Coalition fleet. Each human ship knew its role in what humans called a standard anti-piracy sweep. They had practiced these maneuvers countless times against real pirates in the asteroid fields. "Target the Coalition destroyer first," ordered her crew. "Give me focused beam strikes on their engine section. I want them dead in space, not dead in general. Plot a boarding approach for after we disable them." The Defiance's weapons fired with perfect accuracy. The energy beam struck the Coalition destroyer's engine housing, melting through armor plating and severing power connections. The massive alien ship shuddered and went dark, drifting helplessly as its reactor shut down automatically to prevent an explosion. Around the battle area, Other human ships were doing the same thing to other coalition vessels. Mining platforms that had seemed defenseless were using their industrial cutting beams to slice through alien weapon systems. Cargo haulers were deploying magnetic nets designed for capturing rogue asteroids, using them instead to trap alien fighters. "Sir," the Coalition tactical officer reported to Ambassador, "the humans are not trying to destroy our ships. They are disabling our engines and weapon systems. It appears they actually intend to capture us." The ambassador watched his fleet being systematically neutralized by vessels that his intelligence reports had classified as civilian transports. "How are they so precise? Our own military cannot disable enemy vessels without destroying them." The answer came from Captain on Mining Platform 7. "We've been doing this for a long time, Ambassador. When pirates attack miners, we can't just blow them up. We need to capture their ships to find out where their bases are and who's paying them. You learn to be careful with your shots." The Coalition destroyer Righteous Enforcement was completely dead in space now, its crew trapped inside a vessel that no longer responded to their commands. Through the viewports, they could see human ships moving closer, their hulls bristling with boarding tubes and airlocks. "Incoming transmission from the human flagship," the Coalition communications officer announced. Captain appeared on their screen, looking calm and professional. Behind her, the human bridge crew worked efficiently at their stations. "Coalition vessel, this is Captain. Your ship has been disabled and is now subject to seizure under Human Space Maritime Code. Prepare to be boarded for inspection and processing." Ambassador stepped forward, his 4 eyes blazing with anger. "This is an act of war against the Galactic Enforcement Coalition. You cannot treat legitimate law enforcement as piracy." "I can and I will," replied. "Under human law, you're pirates. You entered our space without permission, threatened our civilians, and opened fire on a mining platform. That makes you criminals, not law enforcement." The human captain leaned forward in her chair. "Here's what's going to happen, Ambassador. My boarding teams are going to come aboard your ship and place your crew under arrest. Your vessels will be impounded as evidence in piracy proceedings. You and your officers will be processed according to human legal procedures." "You cannot be serious," the ambassador protested. "We have diplomatic immunity under galactic law." His expression did not change. "You don't have diplomatic immunity under human law because you never established diplomatic relations with humanity. You just showed up and started making demands. That's not diplomacy. That's extortion." Across the battle zone, human boarding operations were already beginning. The cargo hauler Swift Prophet moved alongside a disabled Coalition cruiser, extending flexible boarding tubes that connected to the alien ship's airlocks. Teams of humans in spacesuits moved through the tubes, carrying equipment that looked like law enforcement gear rather than military weapons. The humans moved with the practiced efficiency of people who had boarded hundreds of pirate vessels. They carried stun weapons instead of military rifles, restraining devices instead of explosives, and legal recording equipment instead of interrogation tools. This was a police operation, not a military assault. "Attention Coalition crew," a human voice announced over the cruiser's communication system. "This is Sergeant Martinez of the Human Space Maritime Police. Your vessel has been seized for violations of anti-piracy statutes. Do not resist and you will not be harmed. Remain at your stations and await further instructions." The alien crew of the cruiser looked around in confusion. They had expected either death in battle or military imprisonment if they were defeated. They had not expected to be read their rights by space police who acted like they arrested alien fleets every Tuesday. On the flagship, Ambassador watched the human boarding operations with growing dismay. His fleet, the pride of the Galactic Enforcement Coalition, was being processed like common criminals by humans who treated interstellar incidents like routine law enforcement. "Sir," his security chief reported, The humans are requesting our complete surrender. They say resistance will only add more charges to our legal problems." The ambassador closed his eyes and tried to understand what had gone wrong. The coalition had enforced galactic law across hundreds of star systems. No species had ever refused their authority. No one had ever treated coalition enforcement actions as criminal activity. "They keep talking about legal proceedings," the security chief continued. "They want to know if we have legal representation. They say we have the right to remain silent and that anything we say can be used as evidence against us." Through the viewports, the ambassador could see more human ships arriving. The entire human system was responding to the anti-piracy alert, and every vessel looked ready for combat. Patrol boats that seemed tiny compared to coalition destroyers were taking up escort positions, as if they routinely handled captured fleets 10 times their size. Captain's voice came through the communication system again. "Ambassador, your flagship is surrounded and your fleet is disabled. You can surrender now and be processed according to human legal standards, or you can resist and face additional charges. What's it going to be?" Ambassador looked around his bridge at his crew. They were all watching him, waiting for orders that he did not know how to give. The coalition had procedures for military defeat and diplomatic negotiation, but no protocols for being arrested by species that treated galactic law enforcement as criminal piracy. "What will happen to us?" he asked finally. "You'll be detained pending legal proceedings," explained. "Your ships will be held as evidence. If you cooperate with the investigation, we might be able to work out some kind of plea agreement. If you don't, you'll face trial for the full list of charges." The ambassador realized he had no choice. His fleet was helpless, his crew was surrounded, and the humans showed every sign of being completely serious about treating the Galactic Enforcement Coalition as common pirates. "We surrender," he said quietly. 3 days later, Captain Sarah sat across a metal table from Ambassador in the detention facility aboard Mining Platform 7. The alien's elegant robes had been replaced with simple gray clothing marked with prisoner identification numbers. His 4 eyes looked tired and confused, like someone who had discovered that everything he believed about the universe was wrong. "I still do not understand," the ambassador said quietly. "The coalition has enforced galactic law for over 1,000 years. No species has ever refused our authority. How can you treat legitimate government actions as criminal piracy?" Sarah had a cup of coffee in her hands, and the old maritime law book open on the table between them. She looked calm and relaxed, like someone having a friendly conversation rather than interrogating a captured enemy commander. "That's the problem right there," she explained. "You keep calling it legitimate government action, but you never established a legitimate government relationship with humanity. You just showed up and started giving orders." She flipped through a few pages of the book. "See, humans have been dealing with this kind of thing for thousands of years. Back on Earth, we had kings and emperors who claimed the right to rule over people who had never agreed to be ruled. We had pirates who called themselves privateers when they robbed merchant ships. We had corporate raiders who said they were bringing civilization to primitive colonies." The ambassador leaned forward slightly. "The coalition represents the collective will of over 300 civilized species. Our authority is recognized across the galaxy." "By species you conquered or intimidated into submission," Sarah replied. "That's not legitimate authority. That's just successful bullying." She turned to a specific page in the book. "Human maritime law is very clear about this. No external authority has jurisdiction in human territorial waters unless that authority is recognized by formal treaty." She looked up at the alien prisoner. "You never sent diplomats to Earth to negotiate a treaty. You never offered trade agreements or mutual defense pacts. You never even introduced yourselves properly. You just showed up with a fleet and started making demands. Under human law, that makes you pirates." The ambassador was quiet for a long moment, staring at the book. Finally, he spoke. What happens now? The coalition will not simply accept the capture of an entire enforcement fleet. They will send more ships, larger fleets. Sarah smiled. Let them come. We'll arrest them too. She leaned back in her chair. See, Ambassador, you made a fundamental mistake. You thought humans were a primitive species that would be easily intimidated. But humans have been fighting pirates and bullies since we first learned to build boats. She gestured toward the window, where the ambassador could see human ships moving through space. Every human vessel out there is built to fight and win. We don't have separate military and civilian fleets because we can't afford to. Pirates don't care if you're a soldier or a miner when they attack, so we make sure everyone can defend themselves. The alien's shoulders sagged. The coalition fleet that attacked you was composed of our most advanced vessels. If you could defeat them so easily, then our entire military doctrine is flawed. Not flawed, Sarah corrected. Just designed for different opponents. You're used to fighting species that build separate military and civilian vessels. We don't do that. When pirates attacked our mining platforms, we gave the platforms military-grade weapons. When claim jumpers threatened our cargo ships, we armed the cargo ships. When corporate raiders tried to steal our colonies, we made sure every colonist could fight back. She closed the book and set it aside. The coalition's mistake was treating space like a civilized place where rules matter. Humans treat space like the ocean in the old days, dangerous, lawless, and full of people who want to take what you've worked for. So we make sure we're always ready for a fight. The ambassador looked up at her with something that might have been respect. What do you want from the coalition? What are your terms? Sarah considered the question. First, formal recognition of human territorial claims. All the colonies, mining operations, and research stations we've built are legally ours under human law. Second, a mutual non-interference treaty. You stay out of human space and we'll stay out of coalition space. And if the coalition refuses these terms, then we'll keep arresting coalition fleets that enter human space illegally, Sarah said simply. We've got plenty of detention facilities, and human law allows us to hold pirates indefinitely while their cases work through the legal system. She stood up and walked to the window. Outside, human ships continued their patrols, ready to respond to any new threats. The galaxy is about to learn something important, Ambassador. Humans don't follow other people's laws. We interpret them through our own legal framework. And our laws say that anyone who shows up with guns and demands our property is a pirate. The ambassador was quiet for a long time, thinking about what he had learned. Finally, he spoke. What about our ships and crews? Your crews will be processed according to human legal procedures, Sarah explained. Most of them will probably be released with time served, since they were just following orders. Your ships will be held as evidence until the legal proceedings are complete. She turned back to face him. But here's the thing, Ambassador. Under human salvage law, any pirate vessel captured in the act of threatening civilians becomes the legal property of whoever captures it. 37 coalition ships are now officially human property. The alien's eyes widened. You cannot be serious. Completely serious, Sarah confirmed. It's all in the law books, ancient maritime tradition, continuously updated for space operations. The coalition just donated a significant fleet to humanity's anti-piracy forces. She sat back down and opened the book to another section. Of course, if the coalition wants to negotiate the return of their vessels, we're open to discussions. Formal diplomatic discussions, conducted according to proper treaty protocols. The ambassador understood what she was offering. The coalition could have their ships back, but only if they recognized human sovereignty and agreed to treat humanity as an equal partner rather than a primitive species to be controlled. I will need to contact my superiors, he said finally. Of course, Sarah agreed. Take all the time you need. Your fleet isn't going anywhere and we're very patient when it comes to legal proceedings." She stood up to leave, then paused at the door. "One more thing, Ambassador. When you contact the Coalition, make sure they understand something important. Humans have been preparing for this conversation for thousands of years. Every pirate we've fought, every raider we've captured, every bully we've stood up to has taught us something about dealing with people who think they can take what belongs to others." She smiled, and it was the same smile she had worn when first confronting the Coalition fleet. "The galaxy just learned that humans don't surrender to bullies. We arrest them." The door closed behind her, leaving Ambassador alone with his thoughts and the growing realization that the Galactic Enforcement Coalition's perfect record of compliance had just been broken by a species that treated interstellar law like an advanced form of anti-piracy enforcement. Outside his window, human ships continued their patrols, ready for whatever came next. The galaxy would never be the same.